A little bit of housekeeping. You don't have to keep any notes because this is a recorded session, so I'll happily share with you the entire session like today with Hillary. Feel free to ask any questions and also feel free to participate. I love when this becomes like very vibrant and we just get to meet each other. Be here with us, be present. And so for those who don't know me, I'm Linda. I'm hosting these events for Power to Fly, Chat and Learn. I'm a minimalist and I am also a community manager. So today we have Hillary and I'm thrilled to meet you, Hillary. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah, this is great.
Definitely. I would love if you would like to introduce yourself. I know from my conversation with Jordan, how you have built this platform. It's called Curio, and all of your idea how humor can make us better leaders, and just if you be so kind to introduce us to who you are and what you're doing.
Wonderful. Super happy to meet everybody. And I love that everybody is chatting because I love to start with a general intro. So yes, I'm Dr. Hillary Lynn. I am a co-founder and CEO of Curio, which is a startup focused on helping people develop personalized mental well-being for themselves. So, but before I jump into that whole presentation, I would just love if you are not on camera, you can just chat, or if you are on camera, maybe just say a few words. So Brian, I'm gonna pick on you because I know you, but Brian, if you don't mind, I know you already said a quick intro, but maybe for everybody who just came in, let's just go quickly around. What's your name and where you are, and what is the best thing you ate this week?
Hello, Brian from New York City via Los Angeles. Worked for 20 some odd years. I'm a composer, write for the theater primarily. I know this is a boring answer. I'll just say pizza, New York City pizza.
Oh my God.
Until I think of something better, fried chicken sandwich.
I love New York City pizza. I went on a pizza tour a couple of weekends ago with some friends. So
nice.
All right. And I know lots of cameras are off. I don't know if Andrea or Jamie wanted to say anything. But if not, maybe Jordan, you want to real quick? Jordan and I work together at Curio.
Hi, guys. I work with Hillary. I have the pleasure of working with Hillary. I'm in San Francisco, and let's see, the best thing that I ate this week, I went to the farmer's market on Sunday, and I got these really, really fresh asparagus, and I roasted them and put lemon and olive oil and cheese on them last night, and they were so good. I couldn't stop eating them.
Oh, so good. I am not much of a cook, so that makes me so envious, and I want to eat it. So, all right. Well, everyone else can feel free, put in the chat, where you are and your favorite food of the week. But without further ado, I'm going to share a few slides, and I'll be, hopping on and off the slide sharing because I want people to be able to see faces as well. So here is, let me know if you can see. Give me a moment, actually. I have to reset the presentation. So, present.
Do you have all the settings in your screen, like screen share and, okay, perfect.
Okay, let me see if this is gonna work. All right, so I believe you can see this, and
yeah.
Great. Let me see if I can make it full screen. Okay. Sometimes it misbehaves and it doesn't want to full screen, but we'll just deal with it. Okay. So a little bit about me. So I come from a medical background, and So originally spent about a decade at Stanford in the Bay Area. For those of you in the Bay Area, I was there for a long time before I moved to New York City. And since I came to New York, I became dedicated to helping people through healthcare innovation. So I went from being a full-time academic physician to becoming an entrepreneur. And that was a huge leap for me, but a very fascinating one, because when you're in science, when you're doing research, you do have the potential impact on the world of if your research happens to be really practical. But in a startup, it moves much faster. The things that you create can be touched by people almost immediately. So I wanted to bring to the world skills that you could use to better your mental health, to better your lives, really. So today we're focusing on humor, and humor is so powerful too, because humor is the most sophisticated emotional skill, is how I describe it. So people who use humor have to be really adept at understanding both themselves as well as other people and where to push the limits. Because when you think about it, someone who's really funny, they're at the border of being inappropriate, but they don't quite step over the line. So you have to understand, your audience and how can you get there without making someone feel bad. So, and then like it says on the slide, you also develop a lot of genuine connection when you share a joke. So like if you're sarcastic and someone understands your sarcasm, then you actually connect at a more emotional level. And laughter, we know, also improves your overall mental health and well-being. And when you laugh, you also let the other person or the crowd of people you're with know that this is a safe space. So laughter and humor are incredibly powerful skills to use. So let's go to the neurobiology. So where laughter comes in is it releases all of these hormones that have really positive effects. So a lot of you have probably heard of dopamine. Dopamine is the reward hormone. So some people, if you like roller coasters, for example, or thriller type movies, that you get a hit of dopamine. Every time you play a game and there's feedback, you get a hit of dopamine. But also laughter just on its own will give you dopamine. So it's a simpler and a healthier way to get that dopamine reward that doesn't employ drug use or playing too many video games. Also, you may have heard of cortisol. So cortisol is known as the stress hormone. And we do need a little bit of stress in our lives to wake us up in the morning or to get us going if we need to do a very difficult task. But you might have heard about chronic stress. Chronic stress really kills us, actually. It's what causes us to gain weight, to have high blood pressure, to have high cholesterol, to have heart disease. So it's a very beneficial to lower your overall cortisol levels so that you only get little spikes here and there to help you with difficult tasks every so often, and not chronically, so that you shorten your lifespan. Endorphins, everyone here has probably heard of endorphins in some way, like the runner's high kind of endorphins, or there's a lot of different endorphins that your body makes. And laughter produces endorphins, which makes you feel euphoric, really happy. And finally, oxytocin is sometimes known as the hug hormone. And it's because you get a lot of oxytocin when you hug another human or you hug an animal. This is why people love like holding their cats or dogs and their children, because you actually get a hormonal effect. And laughter does the same thing. You also get oxytocin when you're laughing. So this is getting really into the nitty-gritty of the hormones. And hopefully this will help you remember the objective positive benefits of laughing. When you're in a group, when you're working with a team, you actually, when you are laughing together, you will actually see chemistry happening in the brain. You'll see connection, neurons firing. You'll see creativity firing off. You'll be more resilient to stress. So we've been talking a lot about resiliency over this pandemic, and laughter really helps you build that emotional resiliency. So something else, funny leaders are very impactful. So I don't know if anyone, feel free to chime in at any time, by the way, in the chat, or pipe up if your sound is on about it. But does anyone work with a really funny manager or a really funny leader? There's so much.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
We laugh all the time.
Yeah, the Curio team is super happy, super humorous. And, you know, it leads to a greater amount of motivation. There's studies that show funny leaders have teams that are 27% more motivated. Oh, Diana, I wish I did. I know, I wish you do too. So, and yes, Linda, you know, if you work at humor, you can definitely get there. So we'll talk about skills. And, you know, people are much more admired when they are humorous as well. Employees are actually 15% more engaged, and teams are more likely, 2 times more likely, to solve creativity challenges or innovation challenges. So you can tell that being humorous is actually incredibly beneficial for businesses and for leaders, and as well as everyone's general happiness. So somebody asked in the preparatory Q&A, is it achievable for someone who doesn't seem to have a talent for being naturally funny to become funny? So everything is work, and everyone has a natural ability, and that might be different. So you might feel like your natural ability to be funny isn't quite as high as somebody else's, but every single person can develop more of a funny bone, to say this speak. And this can take a long time or a little bit of time, but a way that we're going to go through it today during our presentation is we're going to go through different examples of styles of humor. So first of all, let's see, stand up. So this is my first time sharing the sound, so let me know if you can hear this all right.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah. Wanda, yes.
Historically black college, you know, I belong to a black sorority, and now I'm married to a white French woman, and I have 2 little white kids. You understand what I'm saying? So basically, I take care of white people.
All right. So stand-up, you've all heard of stand-up comedy. It's very outrageous, it's bold, and it's unafraid to insult, like offend even some people in order to make a joke happen. It's very daring to be a stand-up type comedian, and it's a little tricky to navigate in the workplace. But this is a style, and I know there's definitely a part of me that really gravitates to stand-up humor. If you out there in the crowd feel like any of these styles resonate with you, feel free to pipe up. So that's one type of style that we're probably all familiar with. And Russell Peters, I love Russell Peters. Okay, let me see. Sorry, let's see the next slide. So this is another style of humor, which might be a little bit more approachable if you feel like your humor is not so natural to you.
Traffic. Thank you so much for helping me get to work today. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
It's fine. You look really cute today.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like we're in a band. It's her red and black.
No doubt.
So it's a sweetheart humor is actually very, very approachable because, you know, the key thing about it is to be a sweetheart. You're being nice to each other, and you pull in a little bit humor here and there, and it lightens the mood. So this is something that I think is very approachable for the people who are, you know, perhaps new to utilizing humor and feel like it doesn't come as naturally to them. So does anyone else, and I know I love to take into account the conversation that's going on in the chat. So, you know, thank you so much, Brian. You brought up, you know, it's been so challenging to be a comedian these days because of the cancel culture out there. And I agree. It's I was actually just watching Dave Chappelle. I've been on a Dave Chappelle roll, just like watching some of his old stand-ups, and he talks a lot about cancel culture and how, like, you know, nobody is safe. And it's true. We all make mistakes, and cancel culture can be very harmful because It doesn't allow us to make mistakes. It doesn't allow us to be imperfect. And the truth is, we all learn through our lives. I know, like for me, there are things from the past that I've said where, I didn't intend for it to be offensive or harmful to others, but it can be construed in completely the wrong way. It can be taken out of context. And people, if they want to hurt you, they just publicize these things completely out of context, and it can be really harmful. So it is something that I think is a big challenge if you're going to be a public figure, especially. So yeah, we got to balance that. So if you feel like you're in a highly public figure kind of a model, maybe you can try and test the limits with some things that are a little bit more low key, such as like the sweetheart kind of humor, before you jump right into being borderline offensive stand-up comedy kind of humor. So, yeah. And I agree with Diana. When you work with people from different cultures, it is so hard. And imagine a lot of us are using things like Slack or texting and other ways to communicate, and jokes really don't come across sometimes. Like, how do you convey tone? You have to like use exclamation points or ... or like you have to use emojis. Emojis are really powerful, and we at Curio love emojis. But at the same time, you have to understand, would this come across as, inappropriate to somebody who didn't quite understand like what I was saying? So I feel you. I think working with people who don't quite understand the language or the culture that you are coming from, it can be very challenging. So, all right. Please do continue chatting in the chat. I'm going to show the next example of a type of humor.
Very excited to be here in London. This is exciting for me. I was kind of embarrassed about what was happening back home in America, and then I saw what was happening here, and I was like, hey, you guys are falling apart too. I truly feel bad for Hillary Clinton because no one likes her. Like, I voted for her, but I don't like her. Like, if she came up to talk to me at a party, I'd be like, I'm sorry, I have to go to the bathroom. And then if she tried to talk to me in the bathroom, I'd be like, I'm sorry, I have to use the men's room. Just a life choice.
Yeah, so you can tell, super sarcastic. She's so great. I agree. She's super sarcastic, definitely making insults, but at the same time, it's kind of like an underhanded compliment or a backhanded compliment, and it's very funny. So, not that I suggest you necessarily bring this to your workplace, but it's an edgy, sarcastic type of humor that you could practice, hopefully among friends at first before you bring it into a professional workplace. So it's all about recognizing the culture of the group of people you're with. So, oops, here we go. All right, so someone who I know is a very big favorite of mine.
We're going to play a game here called Slapjack. The horse's name is Blackjack. At the end of each round, the winner gets to slap the loser across the face with a giant prosthetic hand. First, 2 or 3 rounds is the winner. We take turns dealing no splits. If it's a tie, the dealer loses. Ryan, as our guest, you deal first. Good stuff. Yeah, good stuff. Good luck. Yeah, red card, of course. Later. Worst floor. Yeah, that was good. I like that. That was good. Okay. Okay. 7. I like that. Later, yours down. Yeah. This is fantastic. This is looking good for you. Yeah. I said, oh. No, I feel like it's pretty good at this one. I say, yeah. I'm gonna stay. Yeah, I'm very happy. That's easy. Yeah. There we go. Let's just see and see what we get. That doesn't matter. Wait. Is that a tie? No. Yes, it's a tie. Okay, then what does that mean? What? Dealer loses. Right? I'm glad it's not called ball jack. I'm just like,
So Jimmy Fallon, very popular, and love watching him. And this is called the magnet style of humor. So it's very expressive, very charismatic, and you want to laugh with him. So this is a very good leadership type of humor, because charisma is appealing to everybody. It's the classic Bill Clinton. Now that we're talking about the Clintons, Bill Clinton knows like everybody's name. Like apparently, if he just meets you once in a big crowd and you tell him his name, he'll remember it. So that's like true charisma. If you can like really make every person feel really special, even with a single interaction, and you also make them laugh because you know what makes them laugh, what is humorous to them. So that's the kind of humor that I think could be really powerful for most people in your workplaces, at home, with your friends. It can be like all humor. It can get into the offensive realm, but charisma and sweetheart, I would say, are the much less offensive forms of humor. All right. So let's take a big breath, and then after that, we're gonna go into our interactive scenarios. So, all right, big breath and out. So I know a lot of people are very shy and not on the video right now, but if someone would like to join, I totally encourage you to. What we're going to do is we're going to go through interactive scenarios, improv essentially. And what you're going to do is you're going to do the task on the slide, except you're going to use humor to lighten the mood and to make the news a little bit more tolerable for the person listening. So the first scenario is you have to tell the company that no one can take time off for the holidays. All right. Anyone want to give it a shot? And just remember, this is a totally safe space. You're definitely not on stage for a comedy stand-up.
How we should do it? It's like announcing something.
Yeah. How about let's just say you're in an all-hands meeting, and so there's a lot of people in the room.
Okay, I'll try it. I'll go for it. I'll take the bullet. So I'd say, hey guys, well, we are having so much fun here that I don't think that anybody wants to spend like time commuting, booking rooms, like dealing with the heat. We have aircon here, we have free coffee, we have like lots of things to do and play around. So how about we stay here for vacations and for holidays?
I love it. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, it's like we love each other so much. Now we're your family. Oh, I love it. And Diana, I love that. Guys, do you know that Santa and his helpers work super hard during the holidays? Well, we'll do that too. It is funny. Like yeah, planes, trains, and automobiles. I love it. So it's a way to kind of lighten the mood. So the next scenario, you have to cancel this year's summer party due to a budget cut. Anyone want to give it a shot? Jamie, do you want to go? It's okay. How about Jordan? I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you like to try?
All right, I'm ready. Okay. So, hey, you guys, you know what? Like, we have so much fun in the office together. We don't even need to go outside. We don't need to go to the beach or to the pool. We can have so much fun together inside. We're just going to stay in the cool air. We're going to get some like Capri Suns. We don't need like fancy bottle service. It's going to be great because we're here together and we just make our own fun.
Yeah. Yeah, the beach is too hot and you don't want to get a heat stroke.
Yeah, who wants to get sunburned?
Doctor approved, for sure. Oh my gosh, Diana has the best. So since you all loved working from home this past year, we will have the summer party virtually as well. That's the best. All right. So you are announcing that a beloved employee is leaving. Oh no. All right. This one's tricky, but does anyone want to give it a shot? Brian, would you like to give it a shot? Oh, you're muted.
Position is open for anyone who wants to give it a try, or to apply.
Yeah. He was so great that he doesn't fit in his role anymore. We'll have to invite somebody
Work on my
else.
spontaneous humor.
Yeah. Join me in wishing Mark the best since he's going to a better place. Oh, sort of dark and sort of funny. I love it. Yeah. All right. So, okay, last scenario. So, anybody who wants to jump in and try something out, this is your chance. So, you've done this before, and people actually believe the guy was sick. Oh my gosh, that's the best. Yeah. Would Valerie like to join in? So,
I'm going shamelessly here to nominate people who would like to join, like Jacqueline, I would say Monica, Diana, would you like to go and share it like on camera? Vin, anyone?
I can also, I'll warm us up. So you're giving feedback to a colleague who talked way too fast during the presentation. So you'd be like, thank you so much, Bob, for your awesome impression of the chipmunks. But I was just wondering if you give the presentation again to us for those of us who don't talk at 2x speed. So. All right.
Or we can say like, hey Bob, I never thought that you sound so professional in X.1 or 10% faster.
I know. It's like you're saving us all time. Like who watches anything at 1x speed anymore? I love 2x speed in real life too. So, oh, Diana can't activate her camera. Okay, we'll picture your lovely face. But all right. And then so I'll pop in with a question that we got from the preview as well. So somebody asked, what are some tips for using humor to diffuse tension when providing feedback? That's actually, that like this scenario, it's I actually use humor all the time when providing feedback, because no matter how much you tell yourself that feedback is a gift and that you should take constructive criticism without feeling offended, it still kind of hits you immediately as like kind of harsh if it's too blunt. So the trick is to soften it up. You can do the feedback sandwich. I'm sure everybody has heard from somewhere, the feedback sandwich, starting with a compliment, then giving the constructive negative sort of feedback, and then finishing off with another compliment. That definitely helps. But when you are using humor, that's the same idea. You're just softening the feedback. So yeah, Jim, Eminem is so 2000, slow it down. I love that. So yeah, you're providing the feedback, and it's real feedback, but you make it funny so that people don't feel too bad about how it sounds. And I know that even me, after many years of thinking about constructive feedback, I still feel it the same way. I love it when people take the extra 30 seconds to just say something funny or something nice to make the feedback a bit more tolerable, a little softer. Nice shoes, bad presentation. Nice shirt. Yeah, it's along those lines. I love that. So, all right. Oh, well, we had one more scenario. If anybody wanted to jump in really quick, but don't worry. So you're announcing that employees must live where they were hired, even if they moved during COVID. So this is an example we're using because it's actually probably real for a lot of people. So raise your hand virtually or shout out. Are you somebody who has to like go back in person or live where they were hired or something like that? Oh, poor Linda. Oh no. Yeah. This is a tough one. I'm not really sure even if I could come up with something funny about it. Maybe it's like, I'm off to Berlin. Yeah. So it's like time to take a vacation to where you used to live, maybe. You could do something like that for humor. So, all right. So 3 key takeaways, first of all. So vulnerability is really important. A lot of times, and I didn't say that much about it yet, so I'll just say so now. Vulnerability helps connect people emotionally. So if you're leading a team or if you're part of a big team, if you're vulnerable just the right amount, then people feel like they can relate a lot more to you. And humor allows you to be vulnerable without being almost like over vulnerable. So some of you might understand what I'm talking about. Sometimes when you're being radically vulnerable, it can feel almost like you're putting your vulnerability in someone's face and you're forcing them to acknowledge it when it doesn't feel comfortable. But how do we be vulnerable without making other people feel uncomfortable? And again, just like the constructive feedback, humor can soften that. So humor can soften vulnerability just as it can soften feedback. And so if you use it, you can get to vulnerability in a much more comfortable, faster way, and people will feel more comfortable around you, and you will build a better, more tight-knit team. Laughter, again, builds trust and connection. It releases all of those good hormones that makes you feel rewarded, feel like happy, feel like you're getting a big hug from the cutest dog you've ever met. So that's what laughter does, and it's so easy to do. And it also increases your creativity, your innovation, your power to discover something new, as well as your resilience against hardships in your life and at the workplace. So really, I just want to, pause there. And any quick questions about the topics that we discussed just now? And there will be a longer Q&A after the next bit, but I just want to give people a chance. Some introverts may have challenges with humor. Any tips? I agree. It can be really hard because when we think of humor, we think of like the stand-up comedian a lot of the time. It's like standing in front of a crowd or a stage and, being funny for everybody. But actually, I would say humor can be found in quiet ways as well. Some of the funniest people I've ever met, actually, they almost like mumble like jokes under their breath. And it's like the humor is almost for themselves, except like when you catch wind of it, it's actually it's like funnier than ever because it almost feels like you're not trying to be funny. Sometimes if you're that extroverted person in front of a room, like being very loud with your jokes, it can almost feel like, oh, they're like taking too much attention from people, or like they're trying too hard to like get attention. But when you're quietly funny, it doesn't feel that way as much. And I actually think it's a very powerful way to have to show your humor, essentially. And then, can humor be learned as a skill? Absolutely. Like I mentioned before, everyone comes to the room with a different level of natural ability of humor, but everyone can learn a bit more. So the best way to be funny is to learn from others and see what kind of humor you like. So whether it's watching comedians or if it's like watching a movie, because movies show humor in a much more low-key way compared to like a stand-up comedy. So you could do that. Or if you find people in your real life who you think are subtly funny in some way and learn from them. And then another thing, a cool trick that I use sometimes is you could be funny by saying what's on top of your mind, just like with no filter. And as long as you make sure that people understand that it's a joke, then it can actually come across as pretty funny. So humor is a way to see into someone's thoughts, actually, because it's so much more unfiltered compared to other thoughts. Oh, all right. If I watch too many YouTube funny videos, can I tell my boss that I'm actually training to be better at my role? I think you can, but to each their own. Your boss may think that's funny, or they may not be as emotionally intelligent. So humor is incredibly emotionally intelligent in a lot of ways. And how can we exercise humor in virtual meetings, considering that nonverbal communication is mainly lost? Oh, I love pointing at, I don't want to over stereotype because everybody at all ages use technology in different ways, but especially people in their teens right now, or Gen X or Gen Zers rather, they're so good at conveying humor over simple text. and it has to do with your rhythm. So if you think about comedians, it's more than just the words of a joke, it's timing. And you can do that too when you're sending text. This is getting into like more sophisticated humor type techniques. So if it doesn't come naturally to you, like you don't have to like immediately right now try and do this, but absolutely timing matters even when you're sending an asynchronous text. Also, again, emojis are your friend. You can use emojis, and my favorite is using a GIF keyboard. So almost everybody has discovered this in some way, but I like Giphy a lot. And the Google keyboard, or there's a lot of keyboards out there that you can download to be part of your phone, for example, or if you're on your computer, you can just go to like a GIF library. And GIFs convey so much emotion and they're so funny. Same thing with memes. If you copy and paste like an image that's a meme, that's amazing. So, and then in virtual meetings, and maybe you weren't referring to this, but in Zoom calls, you can also be very funny. Like I think, and this is again, like it depends on your comfort level and your sophistication with humor, but you can use like in Zoom, there's all those emojis, like you can, send like an applause or you can send a heart. And if you send things in an ironic way, it actually is kind of funny. I once read this article about how the rolling on the floor laughing emoji is dead. About apparently a bunch of young Gen Z people think it's like it's not cool to use that to say that you're laughing out loud anymore. And instead they use the skull emoji to say like I'm dead, like I'm laughing. And what's funny about that is that was completely not what that emoji was created for. And yet like people have found a way to use it. And they also use the crying emoji to be like, I'm laughing so much that I'm crying. So same thing with like the emojis that you could use during a Zoom call, or maybe in your Slack, there's a lot of emojis that you can respond to people with. If you use them in a creative way, that actually can be incredibly funny. So, and let's see. Like yawning is contagious. I agree totally. So I'm going to actually, what I'm going to do right now is I'd love to give everybody just 5 minutes right now to quickly do our quick feedback survey. So you can find it at joincurio.com/power-to-fly. Jordan, if you don't mind showing that in the chat. And meanwhile, I'll play some comforting music, and you can feel free to also stretch during this time. We'll just take you to the 45 of the hour, depending on where you are. So 3 to 5 minutes. You can continue putting in questions during this time as well, but I just wanted to make sure we had time to do this. All right, I'm just gonna give you like 30 more seconds. I realize it probably doesn't take 5 whole minutes to fill that out. So, all right. Thank you so much. And you can get to the website at any time. First of all, we'll be updating lots of things in the upcoming weeks for Curio. So you can always feel free to check out joincurio.com. And you can also reach that feedback form too later on if you need. So I wanted to, share a couple more tidbits and also bring my face back because sharing the screen makes us all very small. Let's talk a little bit about the benefits of laughter as language as well. So if you think about it, the study of languages is not just using like a different language like English, Spanish, French, Mandarin. Those are not the only languages we have. We actually have languages of humor. So kind of like the styles of humor that I mentioned, except, laughing with one another and like sarcasm, those are also expressions and ways of communicating. I would call humor even a separate language. And before we had word languages like English, etc., we had laughter. And biologists believe there's a theory that laughter was a way to communicate to people that it's safe to approach, even if you didn't have the same word languages. So if you laugh, it's just like, I'm not going to hurt you if you can come and approach me. So that's like it's a fun tidbit that you can take away. And that's also why to this day, if you're smiling, you seem a lot more approachable. So, and then I also wanted to bring up, Jordan reminded me about how you can really lean into mistakes. So I am a big fan of improv, and some of you who've been following Curio know that a lot of our roots come from improv comedy. And the reason is because of the yes and culture of improv. So, and for those of you who don't know, yes, comma, and is a very, very common phrase in improv. And the reason is because when you do or say anything in improv, we consider it on purpose. So even if it was by mistake, say you're on stage and you trip, then it becomes part of the sketch. Then it becomes part of the scene. So a very funny example is on Zoom, for example, a lot of times our internet connection isn't so great. So your face might get frozen. And then you realize like 4 seconds later, and then everyone's just like, your face is frozen. So then you could be like, oh yeah, I was just trying to see if you were paying attention. Or you lean into the quote unquote imperfection or mistake. And that's a kind of yes-anding. And I know somebody who really leaned into it. He actually took a picture of himself like mid-speech and then made it his virtual background. And he literally just like entered a screen, like a Zoom meeting, and then just like left that up. And then everyone thought that he was frozen for like 5 minutes. It was like the funniest thing. So we're developing new jokes in this virtual world. So anywho, all right. So let's see. I just want to make sure.
We have some questions already from Janice. And she says, what if humor doesn't come naturally to me? How can I implement it in meetings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, if humor doesn't come naturally to you, I think, it's all about baby steps. So like I mentioned with small things, instead of when you feel like you might be shy or embarrassed to speak up, for example, that's actually a really great opportunity to lean into it and turn it into a joke or make it more lighthearted. I have seen this happen several times when someone is presenting or something and they'll just say out loud, they'll just be like, I feel so nervous. And it actually can be funny. Like when you say that out loud, it's like, I feel so nervous. And then just be like, I don't know what's up with me. It's something about like being in front of a camera. It's like I'm getting filmed. And even though like, that's not really a joke, like I'm just saying things that are like on my mind, like, but somehow like when you bring it up, then it's like funnier rather than if you try to hide it. A lot of times like people will notice like if you're feeling something bad, like nervous or angry or sad or something. So calling it out and saying it out loud actually turns it more lighthearted and into almost a joke. So that's like a very cautious, like baby step kind of a way to step into humor if you feel like it doesn't come so naturally to you. No. And
it's a good way to practice like the vulnerability as well, when you just like, if you like, maybe you don't know if you want to put yourself out there, and just like being honest and saying what's really on your mind, like assuming it's like work appropriate, is could be like a good way. Because I know I have sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know, like I feel kind of nervous about this, I don't know if I should like make that step. But it's like, it's the whole, you know, like we do live in that cancel culture environment, and you're like, I'm afraid to make a mistake. But just like making those mistakes, and I think we have to just let ourselves do it. And sometimes the joke's not going to land, sometimes people are going to be like, you're so strange, but it happens, it's life.
Or like if you don't, oh yeah, absolutely. Or if you don't understand something, I think this can come across well too. It's like, say there's this whole meeting going on and then you're like completely confused, and at the end of it you could just be like, I don't get it. Or it's just like, I don't know what just happened, a lot of words were said but I don't understand. And sometimes just saying it out loud is very funny. So you can just lean into it, and actually it shows a level of confidence. Like if you're able to own up to things like that, then it shows that you're a confident person rather than that you're weak in some way. I think people are afraid to appear weak, but it actually conveys the opposite effect.
I would agree with that. And I have experienced that when I was like onboarding to my new role, like for 3 weeks. And I said to my people who were training me, I said, listen, it's been like 3 weeks now, but I understand it like the 4th week. So bear with me, because now it makes sense for me. I might agree when you said, let me show you how this works. But in reality, I don't know. So please, can you show me again?
Yes, I love that. Or like, you can say like, just talk to me like I'm 6 years old, like, you know, and a lot of it is about the tone that you employ. Like when you say things too, you can say the exact same thing and be funny, or say the same thing and be totally not funny. And you just kind of have to, everyone has a different style. So there's like, I can't do deadpan humor for the life of me. Like, I don't know how people do it. I'm just too like expressive with my face. So I can't do deadpan humor, but other people are so good. They just like say things and then they just like won't laugh. And then you're just like, oh, that's so funny. How do they do that? So there's no one way to do humor. I encourage everybody to just explore and feel free. So, all right. Any other questions?
I just, it's just hearing you guys talk about it. It's such an issue I have, because it's the definition of human nature is that we say things we don't mean. We make mistakes. We hurt the ones we love the most. We are often sometimes hurtful and we don't mean it. And we apologize. What is so problematic today is that that's not enough. And then you put a historical context into things. I said something, and this is usually not only even with people in the public eye, not even celebrity, but even like CEOs of companies who are not in the public, eye, so to speak, or just regular folk. There's no historical context to any of this. You say something a decade ago, assuming you're the exact same person you are a decade into the present, and you can apologize for that, but it's not enough. And so you have people groveling, like Lin-Manuel Miranda, who's done more for the entire diversity of the theater in the last 20 years, and millions of dollars to Hurricane in Puerto Rico. If anybody is inclusive and diverse, it's Lin-Manuel Miranda. And all of a sudden, he's apologizing for things. I don't mean to cross race with comedy, but the issue is that there's no, like, whatever happened to the apology being accepted? This is the issue I have with all the comedy and all the cancel culture. I grew up in the 80s with Eddie Murphy being R-rated and X-rated. I'd be lying about it and say I miss some of that humor today. I miss the Eddie Murphy who used to curse. I miss that. Yeah. Just as an example. Sorry, this is a passion thing for me. I've seen so many colleagues of mine have to now censor their brilliant comedy skills to some unknown entity that might not like it.
Oh man, I kind of agree with you. It's really sad, and it's so everyone's very touchy now, and it's more about it's honestly more about power than it is anything else. Unfortunately, a lot of entertainers don't have a lot of power. But then you see somebody, I shall not name names, who may like be leaders of a country say completely inappropriate things, and they don't get canceled. And so it's a lot of power. So that's why it's sometimes like the more power and influence you have, the more you are able to push the limits of what you can laugh at or what you can say in a comedic manner. So it's an unfortunate truth, and I think about that too. Like life isn't really fair, but we just have to be aware of the boundaries of that. So yeah, oof. I feel you, Brian. This is why
I think it's all about taking risks. I mean, anybody who's in the creative field, whether it's creative emojis, whatever, everything is risk based in a sense. If you want to excel, I mean, I believe in the work that I do. Look, it's not for everybody, but there's nothing wrong with taking risks. When you start cutting off the ability for anybody creative to take a risk, it's a really bad form of censorship in the sense of letting people be expressive. So it's hopefully the pendulum will. But it's troubling because I have a lot of colleagues, including myself, who are now amending their voice out of nothing but fear, and that doesn't make good art. So
you can apply that same philosophy to everything. Like, as an entrepreneur, I see this a lot. A lot of people laugh at the crazy startups that people come up with. But at the same time, like, you have to have extremely crazy out there ideas in order for something to change the world. And I like
100%.
that. Yeah, right. It's the same thing as with art. I mean, anything creative, you have to take these risks that people won't understand. Otherwise, there won't be any possible reward. I also I forgot the exact wording of the saying, but some of the best innovations look like toys. I think I'm paraphrasing, and it's referencing things like Facebook. Facebook looked like such a almost juvenile, childish thing, like when it was created. For like, it had no like mission or purpose, and now it's like, as big as it is, it's taken over the world. And there's so many examples of things like that. Like you start off with something that's almost like a joke, and then it has this power. And people might interpret it differently, but the way I see it is humor is a wedge. So if something looks like it's funny, it's a joke, it's like a toy, then people are not intimidated by it. Then they're willing to play with it and use it. So I'm Asian, as if you couldn't tell, and
say it isn't so.
Yeah, I know, right? And I've always been like I would say a medium fan of like Korean pop. I used to say that I was a huge fan of K-pop, but now there's way huger fans of K-pop, and I feel like I can't say that anymore. So but if you remember several years ago, Psy, the guy who did Gangnam Style, he was so popular, and it was unbelievable because he's this Asian, not even Asian American, an Asian artist. And I was thinking even back then that it's because he's so funny. And humor is the wedge to get into a new area. So by being funny, he was able to get into the minds of like people, even in America, who traditionally don't love like Asian pop culture. And now look at like BTS. BTS has like taken over the world essentially. And I truly believe that we probably wouldn't have started with a BTS. Like we needed that humorous wedge to open up people's minds to something very new and foreign. Yeah.
I really love this party, I would say, because it feels like we gathered here, like honestly, like to chat with each other. I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I really want to thank you, Hillary. I know that you have been like extremely busy, but I feel very grateful that you're here with us today, because I totally feel that we need humor in our daily lives. And with my team, I had this conversation when I was thinking, why we always so stressed and we always like share all this data and all this marketing thing in the Slack channel. Let's just change it to something like alternative. Let's just be a little bit fun. And I had this idea, feel free to go with, where in the Slack channel I said, okay, why don't we put like a very funny version of ourselves instead like of a profile picture? And everybody like went like very excited, and they would just put like cartoonist kind of Disney looks. I put like a very hilarious face when I'm doing like yoga, but it was like great because people felt engaged, and they the mood was lifted. It's like, oh, it's gonna be kind of cool. Like it's not boring like to go to work even like virtually. The team is fun.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And if I know we have a couple of minutes left, so I want to make sure anyone gets to chime in and say anything. But as a humorous activity you could do with your team on your next Zoom meeting is we did this as a team. You can create a Frankenstein like a picture. So if all of your screens are the same, for example, Jordan for me is in the middle top. She would be like the head, and then I'm on the left. So I would like be the hand, and then like Linda would be like, I don't know, like the elbow or something, and Diana would be the torso. So you can like make a funny little Frankenstein. So just like, I love that, Linda, you're playing games and like using humor. Like it really helps people feel closer with one another. So, and thank you for having me. This is so much fun. I love talking about humor.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for also like giving your time, Diana, Brian, everyone, Valerie who's tuning in, Vin. Thank you so much, Jordan and Hillary. I wish you a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
All right, take care.
Bye bye.